see your mother. You were only given one, go see your mother. And you know that you will never have another. Go see your mother, go see your mom.
Sorry. Welcome to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. I'm your host, Sadia. This is my mother. Hey, Ma.
How do you do? Yes, I have my horns out.
Your horns out.
I'm ready to attack.
All right. I'm going to try to be brief here. So, a school that we're aware of. Sorry.
We're not going to mention a school that everyone is aware of in Baltimore.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had a hiccup, so I'm trying to get rid of the hiccup. So they sent out a letter to parents of fifth graders, and it reads as follows. Dear fifth grade parents, it is a joy to hear the sounds of learning each day in our fifth grade. Although most students, Ima, I need you to have zero comments until after the letter. Thank you. Although most students will become a Bat Mitzvah in sixth grade, we are writing now to remind you about our policy regarding parties so you can plan accordingly. Take this opportunity to wish you a heartfelt mazel tov in advance of this special milestone. The policy states that if a family chooses to make a party, students in our sixth grade may not be invited, even one or two girls. The policy does not, however, restrict a family from making a special Shabbos Suda and inviting 3 to 4 friends to acknowledge this wonderful milestone. Like any other Shabbos, where friends are invited to a friend's home for the Suda, if choosing to do this, we ask that it is done quietly and not discussed in school in order to help ensure that others don't feel left out. The policy does not restrict a family from making a Kiddush on Shabbos for family and family friends, and also inviting the girls in the class to the Kiddush, although the school is not encouraging this option. If you have any specific questions as you get ready to plan, please don't hesitate to reach one of us. All right, now you can go, and then I have my own comments.
I think the job of a school, especially a Jewish school, should be to teach Hebrew language schools. And by the way, of which this particular school is very deficient because numerous girls have gone through K through 12 in this school and can barely speak a word of Hebrew. To teach Limudei Kodesh skills, translating Chumash, and Rashi, and other Meforshim, Navi skills, English skills, such as, of course, learning to write a coherent sentence, which they also don't do that great of a job in. And like I used to tell you children, when you would tattle on each other, you worry about yourself and you'll find it's a full-time job. Well, if this particular school would worry more about teaching skills rather than putting their noses in people's private lives and trying to dictate our, private lives decisions, they would find that that's a full-time job because they don't exactly do a great job of it. And I think this is a total overreach. I can understand, like what one of the boys' schools did was they just requested the parents that before you make a bar mitzvah, before you actually sign up with the caterer or sign up, the date, please check the date out with us because we don't want the bar mitzvahs coinciding with another bar mitzvah. And then the boys have to decide which simcha they're going to go to. And it's, one boy gets left out or something who's not so popular. I can understand them saying, please, if you're going to have any parties, I can understand they want to say, please include the entire class. Now, as for not including the sixth grades at all, that's really not fair because you have girls who have close friends in sixth grade. And I think sixth graders are mature enough to know that if this girl is having a party, that those girls in the sixth grade that were invited are obviously very close friends of hers. And the girls that weren't invited were, first of all, this is a private matter. This is a total overreach. And it's not the school's place to do this. So what else I can say about it? And the problem is we're not dealing with a community like New York, where you have who knows how many schools to choose from. The number of schools to choose from in Baltimore is very limited at this point. God willing, I hope it improves. But very limited at this point. I just feel we have a diverse community, and there are in such a diverse community. Yes, you do have some groups, and I've spoken to mothers of these groups that do not believe in having bat mitzvah parties. Fine, that's their minhag, that's their prerogative. But then you have other groups that do believe in having bat mitzvah parties. I mean, I'm sorry, this is, like I said, total overreach, plain wrong. I'm sorry, none of their business. And what I don't like too is that I was talking to a woman who grew up in a similar situation to that, and they had spies that would see a girl go to a bat mitzvah party, that they would report to the school that this girl went to a bat mitzvah party, and this girl was called into the office and threatened with expulsion because she went to a bat mitzvah party. Excuse me, she went to Sameach, her friend, on her birthday. That's an avera, excuse me. Sorry. You're teaching these girls to tat on each other. You're teaching these girls to spy on each other. This is Abbas Yisrael. Teaching kids to be stool pigeons. This is not Abbas Yisrael. It says in the Torah that if you add to the Torah, don't add to the Torah. Because if you add to the Torah, the day will come that you're going to take from it. You're going to just leave it. It'll be too much. And it's getting to that point. You have too many of our Jewish institutions like this that are adding to the Torah needlessly. And it's showing. It's showing in the number of young people that are either not as from as maybe they were raised, or are totally leaving the Jewish way of life.
Again, what I find so frustrating is all of this is totally predictable. You know, it's just a reaction because ideally they want to be concerned with everyone's feelings. So to neutralize the feelings and make sure everyone doesn't feel a little bit hurt or have to express certain emotions or feel certain emotions, they ruin an entire experience for everyone else in the school, which is very counterproductive. But I'm going to be devil's advocate because I agree with you 100%, but we can't have a yes man. We gotta spice things up. So the thought process is this: the problem with girls' schools when it comes to parties, there's a lot of exclusion, there's a lot of mean girl kind of attitudes, and there's a lot of money involved in keeping up with the Joneses. And having these policies in mind allows these people to not spend so much money on a bat mitzvah or at all, and not worry about hurting their kids' feelings or having a birthday party situation going on where it's like, well, I invite him, so I invite him, so I invite him, so I invite him. And it keeps things simple and easy, and it's utilized so people can feel safe in their own environment, especially when it comes to, young teenage girls.
First of all, I saw an episode of Nanny JoJo where she was handling something similar to this issue with a mother who had these teenage daughters. They were like preteen, like 11 to 14. Okay.
Yeah.
3 adopted daughters. And she didn't want to discipline them. She said she wanted to protect them from being in an uncomfortable situation. And Nanny JoJo says to her, you are not doing your children any service by trying to protect them from uncomfortable situations or situations where they feel challenged. This is life. This is part of life. And there's only so much protection you can do. Yes, I grew up too. Like one girl had a big bat mitzvah party in a hotel with a restaurant, and other kids, their parents couldn't afford such a lavish affair. And you got the same problem too with any parties, with any bat mitzvahs, bar mitzvahs, simchas, weddings. How many people have these unbelievable lavish weddings? And other people can listen. They can't afford it. They have to have simpler weddings. This is part of life. You have to learn to accept it and deal with it. And when you have uncomfortable feelings, when you're in an uncomfortable situation, a young person has to know that they can go to their parents and talk it out and basically learn how to accept and deal with it. It's part of growing up. This is not the school's role. The school is not there to be a surrogate parent or to be a nanny. Like I said, the school is there to teach skill.
Yeah.
To give an education. You can tell how livid I was. Thank God that my girls didn't go to the school with this type of policy, I would have been, you know what your father would have done, don't you?
Yeah, I would have went nuts.
Oh my God. I think the phone wires your father would have picked up the phone, called the principal, man, the phone wires would have melted after he finished with it. Your father didn't put up with this type of stuff.
Well, it's also the idea of like, we do have more school options for girls. I was thinking of a cute little thing of like, take the kid out for 5th and 6th grade, have your bat mitzvah party, and then put them back in.
Hey, that's an idea.
It sounds like it's a headache. It's a real petty headache, but it's I technically know they weren't part of the school during your bat mitzvah, so I don't care what you think. Or take them out like oh, they're not part of the school right now. They're gonna be homeschooled for the first 3 months, and we'll put them back in afterwards.
Or we're not having a bat mitzvah party. We're having a nice beloved malka.
I'm trying to remember. Did you ever have a bat mitzvah party?
Yes, I did.
I'm trying to remember if we talked about this. I think we did, but I can't remember.
Well, my mother asked me what kind of bat mitzvah party I wanted. And I told her I wanted to have a quiet dinner party at home at my house with just some friends. That's all. With some close friends. That's all I wanted.
How many people were there?
12 girls. Okay.
Do you know their names?
One girl,
There was Cheryl and Mindy and Sarah.
Well, there was her regular name was Arlene, I think Arlene, but we called her Cricket.
Why?
Her nickname was Cricket. I don't know, it was her nickname. She called herself Cricket. We called her Cricket. Then I invited some non-Jewish girls too. Ironically, it was really sad. None of the non-Jewish girls came except for one.
Yes, I remember you telling me about this.
Sally.
It was like Sally, a Catholic girl, right?
Yeah, Sally with red. She had fire engine, bright red hair, blue eyes, real sweet girl.
Yes.
She was so nice. In fact, she was joking around. She was looking around the table and she said, "Aren't any of the other non-Jewish girls coming?" And I said, "No, unfortunately, you're the only one." So joking, she goes, "Well, nice seeing everybody. Goodbye." She pretended like she was about to leave, and we all cracked up laughing.
That's very cute. I think I remember you talking. Now that you've mentioned it,
Yeah,
I remember you talking about it. But what about organizing bat mitzvahs for your daughters? How is that?
it varied. It was pretty much what they wanted. I remember Etty. I asked Etty, where would you like it? And Etty wanted it in the house, which we did, and she wanted hot dogs and hamburgers. And we had hot dogs and hamburgers, and then they would do an art project. And the art project she did, I'm trying to think what it was. One of the girls did Shabbos candles. We bought these glass candles these glass candle holders from
Amazing Savings or something?
Yeah, from my favorite store, Dollar Store.
Yeah.
And we got acrylic paints and the girls decorated them. And I remember when I was at 7 Mile Market buying all the food, and I forgot what we had for dessert. She had quite a bit of food. She invited the whole class, of course, and some other friends that were outside the class. And I remember I spent $300 on the food. And as I was checking out, I thought to myself, look, if it were a bar mitzvah, you'd be spending thousands of dollars. Surely you can spend $300 in food for your daughter's bar mitzvah party. It was very, they came and the girls, they ate, they did the art project. I'm trying to remember Hani's.
Anyway, I'm trying to use names, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to remember, now remember we did a few of them at the show.
Yeah.
And each of your sisters got to pick the menu. I remember one of your sisters picked Italian, French fries, French fries, ice cream, pizza, and your father got a cotton candy maker, cotton candy. I forgot what her art project was. One of your sisters had an art project where it was these cute little vases, and you put in these little sponges, and you put these little artificial flowers in them. So I'm trying to think of some others, and one of your sisters had Chinese, like a David Choos type thing. In fact, I think did David Choos cater it? I don't know, I forgot. And it was at the show. I can't remember all of them. I should remember all of them, but I just remember a few of them. One was the piece that was Chinese. Etsy's. Yeah, there was the hot dog and hamburgers, and darn, I'm trying to think of some of the others. I think there were a couple Chinese menus among them, but basically whatever they were. And I mean, it was so nice. You talk about teaching Abbas Yisrael. This is Abbas Yisrael, having the whole class and having all your friends and family at a nice party. Celebrating your birthday, celebrating your milestone. I just,
It's frustrating. It's frustrating and aggravating
Yes.
and hypocritical to obsess over bar mitzvahs and be okay with bar mitzvahs, or even put very light policies on bar mitzvahs. When it comes to bat mitzvahs, if you have a bat mitzvah or you remotely even go to a bat mitzvah, you're kicked out of school. It's so blatant. It's such blatant bullshit.
There should
but
be such an outcry in the
There isn't.
community against
There isn't,
this.
because they're passive. The one thing I learned when I was growing up, I realized a lot of parents are passive. They don't want confrontation. They have enough on their plate. They don't want to deal with anything. And if they have an opportunity to go ahead and just blame it all on the school and have the school take control over their kid, they'd let it. And that's what happens. You have lazy, dumb parents who do not care. And that's the truth.
I hate to say it, you might make a book and a toast to that book.
That's when I was in school, it was a very frustrating situation where, there was definitely a shift change for how they were trying to reevaluate the school and its policies. And I was in the middle of it when I was there, and I had problems with it, and I complained about it, and they made accommodations for me in my class. But everyone else, even though they complained about it, they just ignored them because, first off, they didn't make that much of a stink. Really, that's really what it was. They just didn't complain about it enough. And second off, they were just bulldozers anyways. Like, what are you going to do? Where else are you going to go? Who cares? I don't like. They would rather chuck the kid out, expel them, send them to public school than actually sit down and try to have a cognitive, thing of how to properly raise these kids. And the frustration was, at least when I was growing up, was that we really didn't have a lot of options. Nowadays we have a little more, but it's still very frustrating because things can get very expensive. You have really good schools, but they're very expensive. They're very expensive. And that's the funny thing. They're not even exclusive. They're just very expensive. It's not like, you better, watch out. You have to go ahead and fill out this 500-page essay and here's 5 million recommendations from like notable authors and politicians. Like, no one cares about that. It's just come to the school. It's just really expensive. And everyone's like, I would rather go to the cheap school, but the cheap school is ridiculous with their rules and regulations. So that's the frustration thing that I feel like I hope I don't experience, but it seems like I might deal with that.
Yeah. There's always the, but like, I just don't like this, but I just think that these, especially in the situation where, like in a community like Baltimore, where there's so few choices, that their job is not to run our private lives. Their job is to provide an education, is to provide skills for kids, and not run people's private lives.
Well, they can go ahead and put that under the umbrella of education. They can claim that this is part of education. We have to teach them to focus on themselves, not be so greedy, not be so selfish, until one of them geschmads makes a buttload of money and then goes ahead and puts them on blast on like whatever social platform that's available, and then they lose a lot of money. Then they might change their ways. Other than that, I don't think they care.
I hate to say it too, but I think there's a certain amount of egotism that's going into these overreach policies. Look how frum we can be.
Yeah.
Look at the little tzaddikim that we can produce.
Yeah. It's less. I remember when I was in school, there was this feeling of they want everyone to be Gedolei Hadar, and if you're not with the program, I don't care what you are, get out of my face. Which was frustrating because the whole policy in the beginning of the schools that they would mention over and over and over again was this idea of how we're a community and we have to help each other and we have to help each other grow. But they were all hypocritical about that because when it came to certain kids that needed that extra help, needed that extra push, they kicked them to the curb.
Right.
I got lucky where I had a father who didn't put up with anything and pushed very strongly when they were trying to kick me out numerous times. And that's a frustration I have, where I'm doing my best to make sure, my children and future children as well, God willing, won't have that problem. Because I don't know what I would do if I was in that situation, if I had to, send my kid to public school or send my kid to like a situation where maybe you would have to homeschool them. Because nowadays with public school, like with everything that's going on in there, it's rough. It's rough. And if someone had an opportunity to send a kid to private school, an all boys private school, especially if you're a if you're a Jewish person who wants to raise their kids in a Jewish way, they are influenced by their environment, and sending them in a non-Jewish environment, they will slowly become non-Jewish influenced. Like, it's just plain and simple. People can go ahead and be an argument with that, but I mean, I highly doubt, the percentage wise of being influenced as a child and from a religious or just Jewish environment. If you're in a Jewish environment for 24/7, it's different than if you're in an environment maybe like 12/7 or whatever you want to call it.
Well, so I think I've said everything that needs to be said on the topic here.
No,
What else can we say?
there's nothing we can say about it. That's the frustration. That's one of the things where it's just like, it's very hurtful and very exhausting when you have these schools with these policies, coming up with all sorts of ideas and all sorts of issues, and you have a child you're going to have to really help navigate through that. Because I don't care about it, because it doesn't bother me in a way of like, okay, it does bother me on a principle of the matter, but the point is that I have no control over it, so I can't care. I can't get involved. But once it involves me, okay, so now I have to go ahead and reevaluate and see what can I do to have my son or my daughter avoid this situation, and what can I do to stop this from happening in the most, I would say, passive way, but like in the most non-confrontational way, because I don't want to have that confrontational attitude. Like my dad, Tati, was always confrontational, always in everybody's face,
Well,
always
yeah.
yelling and screaming, and I just didn't
Thing
want to
is,
have
I
that.
think the reason was because I think when he was in school, he was really victimized in school, and he probably felt that he would never see any of his kids being victimized in school the way he was. So I think that's why he reacted the way he did.
Yeah,
But well,
it's just,
when I was driving home,
yeah,
I was flipping through the channels, and there was this woman on one of the channels who was like, it's like the spiritualist, you want to say, okay?
yeah,
But what she said was so good. It made a lot. She was talking about getting bogged down in some of the negative experiences that you've had in your life, like letting it drag you down, like, getting involved in it. And she said, like the song says, let it go and let it go. She says, you can't deny it happened. Okay. Yes, you were hurt. But she said, remember that these experiences that you had is what makes you what you are today. And she says, remember the story about, the man who went to the Alter Rebbe and said, I'm bothered by bad thoughts. And the Alter Rebbe sent him to the tzaddik that was supposed to help him learn how to control his bad thoughts. Remember the story?
It wasn't his bad thoughts. It was that he felt very negative about his situation.
No, this was different. This
Okay.
is totally different. He was bothered in davening and learning, and he'll be in the middle of davening or learning, and he'll be bothered by bad thoughts. So the Alter Rebbe said, I'm going to send you to somebody who can teach you how to control these thoughts. And he goes to the man's house, and it's cold, of course, it's a cold winter day. He knocks on the door, and no one answers. And he's knocking and knocking. And he looks through the window.
We talked about
And
this.
there are people there. And finally, the guy opens the door. He's there practically the entire night. In the wee hours of the morning, the guy opens up the door and says, hello, come on in. You must be cold. Here, I'll give you some hot tea. And he said, you knew I was out there. Why didn't you let me in? He says, I let in who I want to let in. And he got the message. And this woman was saying basically the same thing. This is like a regular Goyish lady. She was saying the same thing. She says, why? Because every day is a new day. She goes, every day is a new you. Why are you ruining this wonderful, beautiful day, this gift from God that you have, this wonderful, beautiful day, with something negative from the past? Why are you hurting yourself? Why are you ruining it for yourself? That is so right. Why are you ruining it? She says you're letting in these thoughts. Purposely, you're letting in these thoughts, and you're letting these thoughts ruin your day. And you're doing it to yourself.
Yeah.
Think of every day as a gift from God, a bright new beginning, a bright new you, a bright happy you. Why do you want to ruin your happiness?
Well, again, that's what because we literally are just talking about something now from what we were discussing that was bothering us.
I was thinking about that because I do that a lot. I think about like all the injustices, especially when I was in school that was done to me as a kid, the bullying, the put downs, the bullying, the yada yada. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mistakes I think my parent made.
Like what? What mistakes did they make?
Hitting me.
Anything verbal? Anything expressive in that way that you felt they could have done differently besides putting you down?
Just don't. If I do something that you think is unacceptable, talk to me. Hitting me does not give me information. It just makes me angry and makes a violent person out of me.
So what good advice do your parents give you?
That's very good. Well, yeah, there was some good advice. One of the good things my parents taught me was not to keep up with the Joneses. Not that we could, because we couldn't, but basically, there are other things. You don't have to keep up with the Joneses. Just be yourself. Not that you shouldn't strive to try to improve your situation, but you don't have to keep up materially with everyone around you. Not to put on there as like, hey, this is who I am. What you see is what you get. Not that not that you should be rude, but if I'm not this fancy social climber, well, that's right. I'm not a fancy social climber. If that bothers you, then obviously you and I cannot have a relationship. You can't accept me for what I am. Then I'm not a fancy social climber. That's not me. Too bad. My mother. One of the things that my mother always said, which made a lot of sense, was when she would hear about a person miraculously surviving some sort of tremendous, devastating accident, and the person miraculously comes out alive, she would always say, not their time. She always was of the belief, and I think it's a very Jewish belief, that if it's not your time, it's not your time. Not that you should live dangerously, but taking reasonable precautions. Taking reasonable precautions, you should know that like Rabbi Gordon once said, we're all born with an expiration date.
Yeah.
And they're basically very accepting. Like she would hear stories about somebody passing away or getting killed in an accident, and of course the people are someone close, and the people around us who we knew would say, if that doctor had only done this, if this person had only done that, and she would say stop, and if it wouldn't have been that, it would have been something else. That was their time. So don't even go there.
Yeah, well, it's just like if my grandmother had wheels, should be a trolley car. You'd always think of many other things that coulda, shoulda, woulda happened, but hasn't. But it's just, to conclude the episode, it's really basically we have no control over it. It doesn't really affect us, and when it does affect us, we ourselves will take care of it. We'll resolve the issue that's needed. I don't have any kids that go to that school. I wouldn't want to send my kids to that school. It's just like I personally, because it's like you go through all this bullshit. Sorry for cursing on this episode. I usually been doing a good job for a while, not swearing, but this is just really driving me nuts.
Well, unfortunately,
I need to finish. I
need to work today.
Okay, I just wanted to finish my one sentence, but then
go ahead.
Go ahead. You know what? Forget it. Just go ahead and say it.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I was trying to talk, but I got interrupted. Continue. Are you saying?
Finish your thought.
It's too late. It's gone. I was on a roll and I got stopped.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know. That's why it's kind of annoying when we're trying to talk and I get interrupted.
There was a kid where I was a kid in this place where you have some kids sometimes, like preschoolers, especially like at the age of 2, that are biters. If they don't like something, some kid takes their choice, right away they bite. And there was a kid that she moves fast. You got to be on top of her. You can't even blink. She moves real fast. And I was really on top of her. I pulled her away a couple of times before she struck. Well, she struck too quickly this one time. And I said, let's put it this way, I said an expression that you should not say in the Jewish. And I went, oop, the minute I said it. The teachers kind of like, they kind of understood because
Yeah.
I was so on top of this kid until that 1 second.
And the thing is also with everything we're talking about, it affects you up until you're about, I'd say, 18. Because once you leave the school, no one's in charge of you. You're fine. You can do whatever you want. If you have parents that want to control you in that negative space, then try to move out if you can. And the problem is a lot of people geschmad because they're like, they don't want to be affiliated with them because they don't want to be controlled by anyone. So they're like, you can't tell me what to do. See, I don't even keep kosher or Shabbos. So, take that. And it's just very sad because you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Yes, these are rotten eggs. Yes, these are terrible institutions. But what you can get out of, Yiddishkeit is a lot. And you shouldn't go ahead and just like I said before, throw the baby out the bathwater and just get rid of everything because you're mad at some guy with a beard because he made you do go to school at a longer period of time on a Sunday. And I think that's something people have to really understand and take into consideration, especially our listeners, because it is frustrating and it is annoying. And, it is kind of rude and inconsiderate and just blatant disregard for people's feelings when you force them to not celebrate their own milestones in their lives. And also be hypocritical enough to not do the same thing to the opposite gender. Because yes, there are some policies in place of like, they don't no longer have bar mitzvah gifts given by each kid. It's now officially by the school and every kid, and you just go ahead and you drop like $75 and that's that for the entire year, which like makes sense because you don't want to go ahead and spend all this money. But it's just kind of frustrating the way it goes where you want to have these celebrations, you want to express your Yiddishkeit and your Judaism, and you're not allowed to buy from Yidden, and it's that's why in a way they kind of ruin their reputation of being the loving Jews that they are trying to be by doing these policies that seem to be, just disrupting the whole process.
Absolutely. And my hope is that what we said on this podcast and maybe enough people in the community will speak out against this, that they will rescind this policy. Let's put it this way, if they were smart, they would rescind this policy.
They won't do anything. They're lazy and they're cowards. That's the truth. People who really care are lazy or cowards or just don't affiliate with that school. And the other people that think it's a great idea, then so be it. But I don't think majority of them actually think it's a good idea. But I don't think majority of them will actually do anything about it because they're lazy and they're cowards. That's just how
maybe you saying that might be the fire underneath of them that might.
I highly doubt our listeners are located in the locations that they need to actually do anything. It'd be nice to think about, but I don't think so.
No, who's listening?
Exactly. And that's the frustration I definitely get when it comes to Yiddishkeit growing up like that. It was very frustrating. Where it's like, I love Judaism. I love what it has to offer. I love being Jewish, and being at home made me feel proud of being Jewish. But when I would go to school, I would rather go ahead and take off my yarmulke and take off my tzitzis and just, walk around and do nothing and then swear up a storm and just be obnoxious because just they want me so badly to be some stuffy shirt in some kind of square peg, round hole situation where it's just like, this isn't my fit. This isn't who I am, but I had no other options. And you're getting other options, but they're not, it's bullshit. It's like, do you want ice cream or do you want this hot dog I found in the dumpster? You have options. You have plenty of there's options. You could do whatever you want. Keep that in mind. You could do whatever you want. You could have this disgusting hot dog that's been sitting in the bottom of a greasy, wet, of a garbage bag, or you can have this ice cream cake that we just got it fresh, new from Carvel. But you have options. What are you talking about? You have options. That's why I feel like with this policy, with this school, it's a very large school. A lot of people go to it. It's the location, and they're just turning more and more into this baloney that I'm seeing in Lakewood in New York. But whatever. All right, we'll see where it goes. See what happens. I love you, Ma.
Love you, honey.
Have a wonderful, fantastic, amazing week.
You too.
Happy
You too,
Yud Tes
darling.
Kislev.
Thank you. Happy Yud Tes Kislev to you too.
And to all a good night. I don't know. It's being ridiculous. Thank you for listening to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. Please comment and subscribe on our Facebook page, YouTube channel, and Instagram. I would greatly appreciate it, and my mother would too.